Hi, my name is Alejandro Pérez Pérez, and this is the AI Coffee Podcast. Every week, you will have one disruptive aspect of technology and artificial intelligence for the time to drink a cup of coffee. Today, we are going to talk about ethics. And let me open this episode with one question. Do you think we live in a world we can achieve the algorithm equality? And don't worry if you haven't understood the question correctly, because maybe you don't know what algorithm equality is. But maybe what you think, from your opinion, is that we live in a world with a lot of algorithms, a lot of models. AI is everywhere. When I mean everywhere, it means that now in your room where you are, at least you might have your computer or your phone, because you are listening to me or watching it to me. So even though you have your phone in your mobile phone, there is like hundreds of artificial intelligence model running. So for example, on your Google Maps, on your Spotify, on your YouTube, on any kind of platforms and application you have, it's very, very probable that at least you have a recommendation model saying you, yeah, why don't you see this specific episode of that specific podcast whose name is the AI Coffee Podcast, for example, right? Because maybe if you have seen X specific things, maybe the model says, okay, why not to recommend you another one? But this is a little bit, let's say, like clear, like good. There is like really, really cute. Like there is not bad things behind. But why, if we talk about healthcare, justice, education, and things like that, and we think, why if we set algorithms in these specific things, are we, let's say, planning an algorithm inequality in the world just because these algorithms might be biased? Yeah, if you're curious about this topic, which I think is very relevant, talking about something huge, something that I like to talk about in this podcast, keep it until the end because I think this debate from me, this is like a monologue, but it feels like a debate from me and you that are watching and thinking. Keep it until the end because you're going to like it. Okay? So the first thing I will explain is what's for me like this definition of algorithm equality. And I guess this is one of these things. It's much more simple to explain the opposite, what it is not. So what's not algorithm equality is a world where you have artificial intelligence modeled algorithms that, depending on your race, depending on your age, depending on your gender, depending on your hometown or your region, or many things like that, exclude you from something. And now, a small parenthesis, I don't want to say that all machine learning, AI, and all that stuff must exclude or, let's say, consider, maybe that's a better word, consider these facts as important for a training. Because, for example, if we talk about medicine, it's already proof that for some specific treatments, it works better, for example, for male, one specific treatment than for female. So it's okay for some specific models and algorithms to use this information. But what is very interesting is, are they needed every time, everywhere? Are they used every time, everywhere? So the more we use it, the more we use it whenever we don't need it, the less algorithm equality we have. So now I think we all know a little bit more what we are talking about. And yeah, for opening this, I will tell you a bad example about something that doesn't work with algorithm equality. And you can have more information about this on internet because it's something published and public, and it's also very interesting. And I think we talked about it a little bit in an episode a couple of months ago. I think the one with Sarah and Trustworthy, I will talk a bit about that. If you are curious, you can go. I don't remember the specific episode, but yeah, I suggest you to go. But still, we talk about something that happened in the Netherlands. So apparently, in the Netherlands, they had an AI model working to classify into potential people who is going to make fraud while asking for a grant or subsidy or something like that, and others that don't. And fraud detection, I think, is a very use case for machine learning, and usually it works well. But why, if we do as they did, the person in charge of that or the company, and we set, for example, the address of the person as part of the training variables for the model? So, of course, we are not setting, for example, the gender. We are not setting the variables that are really clear that could create a bias model, right? But what they did is actually the model understood that if you were living in specific neighborhoods, the probability that you do fraud is higher, and if you live in others, is less. Yeah. So is it good for society, this model? No. So what it happened is that at the end of the day, a lot of people that had all the requirements for asking for a subsidy, they were rejected because they were potential criminals. And the thing is that they weren't even given an example and an explainability, as I usually say, that it's relevant, why they were rejected from that. Because they only knew that they were rejected, point. So most of them, as they were like, they had the requirements for this specific subsidy, they complain about that. And little by little, the government discovered that this model was biased. And they took people from these specific neighborhoods out just because of that. There was no other reason. And this, of course, goes against this equality I said before. Because, of course, if you create a machine learning model for fraud detection, if it is working on variables that are objective, let's say maybe you have weird movements on your bank account or things like that, of course it's nice, and of course it's okay, and it works even better than if you use the neighborhood this person is living. But if you're using these other kind of variables, you create a bias problem. And this was a huge problem in the Netherlands at that time. It was so huge that the prime minister like decided to quit just because of that, and it was a huge thing. So it happened sometimes in other specific regions, in other specific places, countries, cities, and it's a pity because, of course, I think like talking about algorithm equality sometimes is like an utopic thing, a topic, because it's like it's almost impossible to arrive to a perfect world with all the algorithms are fully unbiased and clean and perfectly done. I think it's impossible to talk about that. And I'm very sad because I like a lot talking about the good part of AI, and I think there is a lot of good things about artificial intelligence. There is a lot of different things we can do with AI to change the world positively, but still we have this bad part that we are going to exclude sometimes people we shouldn't. But of course it's not the same as we do, like maybe because we added a variable that is the variable 72 with a lot of numbers on it, and then we discover little by little years later that this variable has a connection with something that could create a bias in the person. Yes, of course, that could work, but this is very difficult to understand. But of course, there's like things we can do to control it really quickly, and I think we have to first, as a profession, as a technical person or AI experts, we shouldn't, let's say so, we mustn't apply variables like sex, gender, age, hometown, region, things like that on a model if we don't really need it. And if we need it, we should be aware of that and be really careful, because the way we set it, it could create bias as well. Then the other one is create explainable models as much as possible. Because even though we can have biased models, I always recommend that we should have humans watching at the decision this model is creating, is making. And if a human sees that this model, for example, the model I said before, rejected a person because this person lives in one neighborhood, of course, I guess that human would say, okay, something weird is happening. So having explainable models and a combination with a human being watching, tracking everything, making like being aware of everything that maybe could be happening, like maybe because we do make mistakes as well as humans, right? So being aware of that, it could be really helpful. And also, of course, if this model is harming a person or a minority or maybe, I don't know, maybe excluding people, because I have seen that as well, because they have one specific name. And imagine it could be so obvious and weird that if your name is Alejandro as mine, maybe you are excluded for a subsidy because a lot of Alejandros in the past have made fraud. But now, I mean, I don't have any relation with the Alejandros in the past, but things like that could happen if you don't work the thing correctly. And of course, if you are not monitoring that in the future, yeah, it could be also a bad point. So with that, I finish. This is going to be short because I want you to think about the algorithm equality on your models if you work with models, and also about the models you use. And of course, most of them we don't really care because they are, I mean, if they are recommended me on one like platform, one specific video of another person because my name is Alejandro, this is not going to harm me. At least, I mean, the bad thing is that maybe I am not attracted to this material. It's okay. I mean, it's not harming one person. But if we talk about models in education, models in justice, models in healthcare, models in everywhere in the world, like it's like that have a potential of harming people, we should consider it. And also think, for example, when we talk about the models themselves, usually we use past models to train the models and to make decisions for the future. So be really careful with that as well. Because, for example, I always make that example. In Spain, until now, we have never had a woman president, a woman as a president of the country. Never ever. So if we ask a model trained with data of past models, if we prefer a male or a female, I'm sure that the model is going to tell me that a male, because if never ever we have had a female, the model is going to assume this is because it's not good enough. And of course, we are nowadays in another period of the world of hopefully, and we don't have these kind of thoughts. So maybe instead of training this model with the gender, in that case, I would train in different aspects, such as, I don't know, the experience, the background, the laws this president has passed or not, the years of experience before, things like that, that are at least more unbiased, let's say, even though, of course, this is a big topic, talking about biases, but still, they are not obviously biased, at least. And with that, I finish. I hope you liked it. I wonder if you think if your algorithms all around you are biased or not, or are algorithm equality equal, sorry, or not. And yeah, if you have some comments about that, I'm open to talk with you, sorry, and also about you if you want in the next episode. And let me know your thoughts about that. Thank you very much. Subscribe to the podcast. I don't forget it. And share it with your friends, press like button, all that stuff that helps me to continue working with these things that I think can create value to you and to the world. Have a nice day. Bye bye.